Welcome into another exciting episode of Just Another Podcast, hosted by yours truly, Just Another Chris. And in today's episode, I got my good friend Dave Knopp of the Knopp Top YouTube channel, and we talk about thrifting, finding stuff to resell to fund your collection or just your hobby. We also talk about the current state of Polaroid and their epic release of their brand new Bluetooth speaker. And we talk about the future of Polaroid Go and the things that we would like to see. It's a really juicy one and exciting. So sit back and enjoy episode 3 of the Just Another Podcast. Hey, Dave, what's going on?
Hey, man. How's it going?
Hey, welcome in. I really appreciate you taking some time out of your busy day to sit down and have a chat. We got a couple cool topics I would love your opinions on and your insights. But first of all, I want you to let the fine people know who the heck you are and where they can find you and what you've been up to.
Hey, I'm Knopp Top, Dave Knopp, and I make YouTube videos about making things. Majority of the things I do create and show are camera-related things, instant photography, regular photography, and video camera gear and all that stuff. But that's what I do. I fiddle-faddle with things.
Fiddle-faddle with things. Yeah, you do make stuff. And you do some short film stuff. I saw you recently uploaded a little mini short film. You said you...
Yeah, I'm still pushing the free time filmmaker. I'm a free time filmmaker. I had
free time. I mean, that's how I found you back in the day. You were doing all sorts of the video tips and tricks and making stuff. And it was really cool. But also, some people don't even know this, but you have another YouTube channel. I would love to maybe briefly kind of talk about it because it kind of goes hand in hand with some of the stuff I used to do in my past too. And that is your Thrifty Mint channel.
Thrifty Mint is a channel. It's really not that much thought behind it other than I thrift. I like to go to the Goodwills. I like to go to thrift stores. And over the years, been wanting to put it out there, some of these little adventures, sort of something completely different than video production stuff, camera gear. But I haven't really committed to it. So it lives on Instagram and on TikTok. And they're just little moments in time. I've shared some cool stuff I see. And a lot of times what I've been trying to do more of, which is upcycle things or even just refurbish old toys or old machinery or things I find, get them working again, just kind of document and give a little bit of an archive. That was sort of the underlying purpose of the whole Thrifty Mint, which was get something thrifty and turn it mint, right? Thrifty Mint. There's a little thought behind it, but I've only done it to a few things and I haven't really, it's just that thing where I've been hesitant to commit to it as a full-time job that would make me have to work, if that makes sense, because I enjoy it. I don't want to have to make it not fun.
No, for sure. I know how that goes. Like sometimes when you have a passion or a hobby and it can be hard to, or not hard to, actually it's kind of easy to turn that into like you're just doing it all the time and you're making it kind of a job, but then you start losing that passion and that drive to want to continue to do it because now it feels like work. Trust me, I know how that goes. But yeah, my past, a lot of people know, some people may not, but I used to own a retail store and I would go to thrift stores and find stuff all the time and buy it and flip it. But then eventually it turned into, after I had the business running, it started turning into a way I could fund other things, fund the habit of toys and collectibles, because that was my past. But I've recently been turning it more into a way I can fund my my instant photography habit, buying up old cameras, selling them, or even trading them for ones I'm looking for. And I think that's a great way to keep a collection going, because especially in instant photography, is, as you know, it's very, very expensive. The cameras are expensive. Film is expensive because it's not just, like a digital world where you point and shoot and you can infinitely shoot your photos, unless you fill up your SD card. But you only get so many photos and you have to spend more and more money. So I really love the thrifty aspect of it, because I've been doing thrifting since I was a little kid with my mom. We go garage sales and stuff. Where do you like to hunt for your stuff or source your items? Is it thrift stores, Goodwills, or OfferUp? What's your deal?
I've never used OfferUp. I don't even know what that is actually, but because I do have some windows of time that I just don't have anything to really do, it gives me something to do. So I usually hit the I have like this route of Goodwills I hit just because they're in like a row down this one main road. So I'll hit 3 of those. And then there's a couple random like vintage stores. The problem is I don't really go to antique stores, and I've never really done any estate sales, which is probably something I should look into. But I don't go to the antique stores mostly because everything's so pre-priced and ready, and they already want like 30 or whatever, $40 for these one-step vintage cameras, and it's like that's kind of depressing. But like you mentioned, it is so rare to find a camera. Even an old point and shoot 35 millimeter is kind of rare these days, but it makes the fun of finding one that much better because they're so rare now. Even though they're not worth pretty much anything, it's just like, whoa, I found one. This was one of the recent ones.
Oh yeah.
Which was just some random, and I was like, whoa. And does it? Oh, it doesn't work, but it lights up and stuff.
For the audio listeners, can you describe what that camera looks like?
What I'm holding right now is the most elegant. It's a camera, and it's titled Happy Smile, and it's a point and shoot 35 millimeter, which means there's no focus abilities, there's no adjustments other than whether you want the flash or not. It does have a film adjustment on there. It's black with some fluorescent writing on here, and the key feature is when you push the button, it lights up and makes sound.
This kind of reminds me of like those weird symbols from the 90s that was used on all the graphics, like those weird shapes.
When I find something like this at the thrift store, I'm like, all right, I get online and then I start looking up other variants of it. And so there is another one. There's a couple different ones that have a lot cooler paint scheme. Same design on the front, which is, I would say, kind of early 90s with like swirls and lines and fluorescent like squiggly lines. But it's on black, which doesn't really look that cool. But they have one that's like on blue, one on red. And I'm like, oh, I should get that. But I left the price on this one. This one is $3.39. So I was excited.
I mean, I've been out
reasonable,
right? I've been out your way a few times now, and I'm always like jealous, to be honest, because like those types of prices, like that camera, if it was out in my area, that would be $20. Like it's just at a thrift store, like at Goodwill. That's just what they charge. Like I literally picked up a 35 millimeter camera not too long ago, and I think it was $15, which was the cheapest I think I'd ever seen. And then there was a digital high 8 camera I picked up the same day. I think you and I were even on I had you in my ear that day. We were talking, I think, when I bought those.
Oh, okay.
I think so. So I thought Goodwill, that was some random day we were talking. And I found a high 8 camera, and it was, I think, $25 at Goodwill. And I did buy it, but only reason I bought it was because it had the battery still fully charged on it, and I could turn it on, and it worked. Mm-hmm. It was the one that had the night vision camera like option on it, which you don't see that anymore on cameras. But yeah, I'm so jealous when I go to your thrift stores. They're so cheap.
And that's where I guess we're just used to it, because I know I've been doing it so long that I've seen the transition of just typical upselling. Now they're so, I don't know what they're doing at Goodwill, where, I mean, there's stuff that comes through there and they're pricing it like $50. If it's like an old camera, I saw one, it was, I think, the Canon X1. I'm not familiar with a lot of the old Canon cameras, but it's one of the ones with the metal body, vintage 1970s, 1980s.
The F1?
They wanted so much money for this thing, and I looked it up real quick, and I'm like, they're asking exactly what it's, people are selling them for online, but it's like, come on. The thrifting, I definitely know that, talking with some of my friends that have very limited time, it is not enjoyable for people that have a very tight schedule, because usually if let's say you're going to maybe stop by a thrift store on the way home from work, you get one stop, and it's very unlikely. Like the only reason I found the few cameras I have is because I hit those same 3 ones almost every other day. And out of like 6 visits, I'll see maybe one item that's worth getting, like camera related. And even that's kind of rare. But that's one thing. It's like, I haven't figured out the best way. Facebook Marketplace.
Yeah. Facebook Marketplace is really nice because you can shop from the toilet. But my friend Jordan hates going to thrift stores. And when we're out, I'm like, hey, let's stop at this Goodwill or this whatever shop. He pretty much refuses to go in them because there's not a guarantee that there's going to be something on the shelf that he is interested in. And I've dragged him to a couple of times. I've like made him go, and each time he has gone, like he finds something and he's like really excited. I'm like, yeah, but it's like 10 times better than going to the Target, right? Because like you found something cool. But yeah, most of the time you don't find anything. But that's something that a lot of people don't think about when they start to get into the thrifting lifestyle, is that you could spend a whole week going out and then not find anything. And then the next week you could be just piles of stuff that you come home with. So it's all over the place, and you have to be consistent with it and stick with it if you really want to get into it. But yeah, you don't always find stuff, and this can be frustrating, discouraging.
Yeah, and I know you know this way better than I do, but one thing I realized more recently, if I had to total up all of my visits over the years, I mean, we're talking like what, 15 years, I have found one SX70 one shot, is that what they're called? Yeah, like old rainbow stripe down with the white camera, that plastic camera. I
Yeah.
found one time, and that was years ago. And so I don't even look for instant camera stuff. I mean, I shouldn't say that. I do look for it. I never have any expectation I ever come across it. But that's where I learned the trick of on Facebook, not just trying to find them, but looking for the bundle deals, because to buy that camera on Facebook or like other eBay or whatever, $25 is pretty average, but you can sometimes find 3 of those cameras for $75 or $50. And then it's like, oh, a little bit cheaper. I don't know if the math adds up with the 75, but
Right.
you get that bundle deal, which is what you're all about, with the toy biz.
Yeah, oh yeah, bundle deal is always nice, and you can turn it into pretty much a profitable business, a little side hustle as they call it, but also kind of like what I was saying in the beginning, where you can just turn it into a way to basically shoot instant photography or collect toys or whatever you're into. You can turn that into a viable way to make it free for your hobby with a little bit of work. You just put in some work, finding the stuff, selling it, and going through all that. Either it be local sales or shipping it, but it's a great way to continue an expensive hobby. I tell you, most of my cameras that I own, pretty much all of them, not quite every single one of them, but I'd say 90%, maybe 95% of them, I've not paid full price for or what they're worth. I've just found them online, or if I do go buy one at full price, I'm probably dipping into some of the profits that I've made from the other sales from the cameras. So therefore I kind of got it for free in a sense.
One of the things I learned, at least in this region of Ohio, there's not that many people into instant photography. So you'll see these cameras, and I'm thinking of Facebook Marketplace often because I go there pretty much daily. But even on eBay, you'll see a lot of those cameras and they'll sit there for months. I mean, there's one camera I've seen for like 2 years now. It's been in my favorites, and it's just an old point and shoot instant camera, some Polaroid camera. And so as far as like trying to earn money for the film thing, I would say thrift for other things, not camera related, things that turn over faster. I mean, even that's where I have purchased some little stools and an old wooden chair, and I sold that on Facebook pretty quick within the week, made a $75 profit on it. And then I use that money to buy that camera that's just sitting there. And usually you can get a deal, because especially if it's been sitting there for like a month or so, they're usually ready to get rid of that junk. It's like, so that is, I wouldn't say, at least from my experience, I never had success trying to resell instant photography stuff to make money to buy instant photography stuff, because it seems to sit for a while. So if you want some quick revenue, sell other things, flip that stuff, and then use that cash for the bundle deals.
Yeah, no, and totally. And it also, I would add to that in the sense that it depends on where you're selling it and how you're selling it. I know locally, like instant photography, at least in my area, it can be kind of a little bit all over the place. You can make some money, but probably there are low ballers that coming after you on those. So like I go to like eBay and sell that stuff. The only thing I would add to that is if you're just starting out, I would stick to the things that you know. And so usually the things that you know are the hobby that you already are in. Either it be instant photography, maybe you're into video games, or collecting movies, whatever it is. Start there, and then as you're selling that stuff, you'll start to see other things pop up, and which you have no interest in, but like I could probably sell that for double, and then I can go buy my new Xbox, or I can go buy my SX70 camera I've been having my eyes on for like a year. But yeah, definitely start with something that you know. That's my advice to people that when they ask about buy, sell, and trading and all that, start there.
Yeah, that's good advice. Stick with what you know so you don't get overextended.
Yeah, yeah. Let's just start for a little bit, and then you can go from there. But where are your normal avenues of selling your stuff? Where you've had the best success at selling?
Well, that's sort of the limit. That's probably the problem. I've only sold some things. You've seen the situation where I have this, I don't know what, I'm like saving up for the worm store. I have all this stuff ready to resell. And so it's just sitting here and I don't like want it necessarily. It's just the idea. And actually, even as I'm talking, I got a message on Facebook about somebody that wants to see one of the items. So now I got to like schedule that. So I kind of let it become a daunting thing where I'm like, okay, I got to make some money. I don't know. It's a wrong perspective, but yeah. So Facebook seems to be the most for the larger items. And then I have sold just, I would say eBay. I think smaller items there, and that's where if you're okay with dealing with the shipping, right? That's always
Yeah.
those little things. I don't know if people think about it. For me it's not a problem. I keep almost everything, so I have tons of shipping boxes, packaging to fill them. Many people that keep a normal house, they don't have all that stuff and they don't think about that element, and suddenly it's like, oh cool, I did what they recommended, I resold something, and they're walking around, they're like, now where do I get a box? So then they go buy a box from Walmart,
Yeah.
they go buy packing material, and they lose all their profits. It's like, oh, so yeah, you almost have to sort of be ready to kind of not necessarily be a pack rat, but just keep in mind if you got some boxes coming in, just flatten them and stick them in the side in the back of the garage or in the corner of the spare room if you plan on reselling some stuff on eBay. But that's where I usually get the most responses on eBay just because it's global, so it can get out there.
Yeah, I have so many boxes. I had to throw away some recently, and I was like, ooh, it hurts a little bit because I might need that box for shipping something in or something. But yeah, I have, in all my years, I've only had to buy a box once or twice, maybe. I, I just buy so much, I guess, online, or yeah, I guess I just buy a lot online, so I get all the boxes sent to me. And then also, USPS offers free boxes and free supplies, so I utilize that feature a lot. Uh, and then but yeah, I know stack your break your boxes down, have a dedicated area, otherwise it can get pretty out of control pretty quickly. My front area of my house used to be just covered in boxes up until not that long ago. Just Mount Prime,
Yeah, and
as
see,
I called it.
and you mentioned it. I think a lot. I assume a lot of people know this, but maybe not. But yeah, USPS, United States Postal Service, offers free boxes for priority shipping, and that is a huge thing because they'll deliver those boxes to your house. I
Yeah.
have done that before, where they'll ship them out, and they're pretty. Now, of course, you just got to be ready to price everything for that shipping cost because it's preset as far as if it's a standard flat rate box or if it's a priority box, it's a little bit higher price. But the ease of just not having to deal with a bunch of old boxes and storing them, that's definitely the way to go. But
Yeah.
I
Oh,
always
for sure.
assume, maybe you might be the same way, where I've been doing it for so long, I just assume everyone knows this, but really I don't think a lot of people know that. I never knew. I think they even give you tape. I don't know if you have to buy the tape, but they might give
They
you tape as well.
so my quick backstory of this stuff is like my mom started selling on eBay in 1998. Yeah, 1998.
Hmm.
And so I've seen all the changes of eBay and how you used to do it. We used to accept checks and money orders in the mail. We'd get that, and then once it cleared, then we would go drive to the post office and get it packed up and all that stuff. But in the beginning, yeah, you could get free tape. I mean, massive roll of tape for free, but people abused that, and the tape
Okay.
became the boxes. They would just wrap the entire box in tape, and so they started requiring you to sell it. But then I've heard recently you can still get some tape, but it's like much like smaller in quantity per roll. But I think you can still can, but I'm not a little fuzzy on that. eBay though, if you have a store, one of those paid stores, which I think they're like $10, $20 a month or something. If you're selling a lot, that's really not a
Hmm.
big deal. But they every month you would get, or at least they used to. I haven't had an actual eBay store in a few years, but you would get a monthly little stipend or little discount code for like $20 or $30, and then you go buy their stuff, and you could use it for tape. And I bought 2 boxes of the tape. I've been rocking that tape for like 5 years. I still got so much of it, but it's eBay branded packing tape, and they're hefty rolls too.
At least with my limited group of friends, what I've found is I've never convinced anyone to become a reseller. There's something that's just innate. It's like deep in your conscience, or something that if you're on the fence, you'll do it. And that's where just the few times it's happened, just because if you're not ready to just deal with printing shipping labels, or writing out shipping addresses and dealing with tracking and all that, for some people, it's just too far out of their thing. But at least with my group of friends, I almost had one that he tried to sell one thing and then it didn't work out, and then he just got out of it. He's like, I don't got time for this. And so I definitely know that it might not be for everyone as far as like trying to resell stuff to make money. In some cases, for the amount of time spent, it's like, just go and rake somebody's yard, get $20 or something for leaves, and just keep moving, you know?
Yeah. Like for me though, for instance, like it became, I mean, I watched my mom do it, so I knew it was possible. But even then, she had to kind of convince me. Once I moved out of, my parents' house, she's like, "Hey, you should start, selling some stuff." Because I was like bouncing from job to job, and then so I started doing that, and that literally turned into a full-time thing. I was working for somebody, but I was making 10 times the amount of money just selling stuff, on the side. Just, I would have several hundred eBay listings, and the more you get on there, you're going to be selling at least something every single day. So there's money flowing once you get to that certain point. So I think at one time, I had almost 500, maybe even 600 auctions on at one point. They were like buy it nows, right? And there's a whole strategies that goes involved if you want to make it simpler. I was selling Lego for a long period of time, strictly just that. So I was selling Lego minifigures. They're so small, little envelopes, slide it in, print a label from home, and if you want to be extra lazy, you schedule a pickup. The postman will come to your door and grab them from you. And so shipping several hundred Lego minifigures literally is like a small little box, and they're cheap for shipping and stuff. That's the only time I technically would have to have purchased my own packing material, though, because you can't get those envelopes from the post office. But you go on like Amazon or eBay, I was buying like 300 or 400 envelopes, like 4x6 envelopes, for like $10 or $15. I think they're probably more now, but that turned into a whole business.
But and that's where I say it's a problem. But like people like you that had that success, because that was a few years back, and a lot of those people made videos about how successful they were. And so the early 2020, huge influx. People were kind of, everything was going down and it was getting weird with jobs. So people were just double down on the resale stuff. So I think going back to like what's changed, that's another thing that's changed, where that's probably even more reason why it's so scarce to find stuff at the thrift stores, because people now, a lot more people are doing it as their main income than used to be. And so that is the thing where at this point, you're definitely, you start getting into the resale for extra money. You're going to be, there's a lot of, not necessarily competition, but sort of, there's people already doing it, and they've been proving that it works really well, and they're going to make sure they'll go to the store every day. I mean, there's a couple places, as random as I go, I see the same people there that are there shopping. So I'm thinking they're going there not just once a day, but like all day. They just hang out there for the transition of like the new stuff coming out and stuff. It's like, whoa, it's commitment. Yeah. It makes me think too, where an area you are a lot more familiar with, the purchasing of used instant film. That's where there's just so many chances of like losing your money on that. Even so much so on Amazon, I think there was a link, you might have sent it to me, and I was like, oh, cool. And sure enough, it showed up, and it was expired film. It wasn't that expired, so it was still usable, but it was a discounted price. So it's like, that's another area of, you can save money just buying film in bulk from some resellers, but you take the risk. But that's why I'm curious to hear more of your insight of, I mean, because you go out, and I guess you just take a chance. That's almost like gambling at that point. You're like, I'm going to just buy this big load of film and hope it works.
So
I don't know if I could do that.
So I've tested so much film in my day here, expired films, good film, whatever, it's improperly stored film. And I gotta say, like, if it's with Instax, don't even worry about it, man. It works every single time. I've tested 8-year expired film of Instax, like wide and even mini, and it all works just fine. That stuff doesn't even matter. But it's only the Polaroid really it comes down to. But even then, I've tested 5-year expired Polaroid film, and it still works. It may not be perfect, like super crisp, but that was surely more down to the Polaroid's like state of their chemistry back then, more than it is a testament of the like freshness, or the, you know, if it's like, yeah, basically the freshness of the film itself, because Polaroid's been trying to improve their film for the last, 6 years now, I think it's been. I mean, actually that's longer, because it was the Impossible Project before that. So they've been trying to get this film for many years now. I can't remember when they formed. It must have been in the early, maybe 2010 or something, 2011 maybe. I could be wrong on that. But so I have no problem buying up film that's expired, because film doesn't technically expire. We just say that term because it's easier to describe. But film doesn't expire. It goes bad at some point, but we don't really know when it goes bad. Like Polaroid doesn't say on the box when it expires. It shows its production date, when it was made, and they say it's going to be good or have the best results within that year, not hey, it's bad after a year. You just might not get the perfect shot within, after the first year. But I buy up film on, OfferUp or Facebook Marketplace. I have one particular guy that I buy a lot of film from. He actually messaged me today, got some, but he buys up, returned film like from Amazon, and or damaged boxes from Amazon at a huge discount, and then sells it for a little bit less. So I'm able to get some discounts on film, which helps the channel here. But yeah, I don't have any problem buying up film that's quote unquote expired. I've had perfect luck.
Well, and that's what I'm curious, because that's where I'm new to that, because I think, you sent me that link to the Amazon discounted price, or I don't know, but I got it, and whatever the case though, I still feel that I was hesitant. It's just sitting in my fridge right now, and I'm just like, oh boy, the date is exactly, like it's older date. But I don't know if I'll do that again until I push through and use all this film first. But that's where, for someone just get into it and they don't have access to a guy like you got your guy. I don't know if most people are going to have.
I got a guy.
But you know what I'm saying? Like, what is there? Like, what would be? You're just saying Instax, no problem. 2 years old, it should be fine, as long as it wasn't baking in the car or something.
Even then, you and I have kind of tested that, because you left that wide camera in the heat in your car for a while, and I shot it, and it was fine. That was last year.
Yeah, and see, that's where, outside of the Stranger Things film, I don't know of any real specific specialty Polaroid film. So for me, I would say if I was going to buy something used, it would be a used camera and the newest film, right? If that's available, compared to trying to get deals on film. I would try to rather spend my time getting a deal on a nice camera that I want.
Yeah, no, I mean, I would agree with that too. At the same time, if you are presented with the opportunity to buy it, you're like, oh yeah, just buy it. Now, if it's like 10 years expired, again, quote unquote expired, or more, stay away from that stuff, because a good chance that's not going to work. So, but now every single year as we progress, with new Polaroid company, who knows, maybe their stuff will get so good that maybe in another 10 years, this stuff will still work. Like expired 10 years, that is. We don't know. Hey, real quick, I wanted to remind you guys about the members area. Yeah, there are some amazing perks by becoming a member of the Spitfire Club, such as extended versions of Just Another Podcast, and extended versions of YouTube videos, and early access to said YouTube videos, and exclusive monthly signed photos sent to your door, and access to the members exclusive Spitfire Club t-shirt. But that's not all. There is now an exclusive members only Zoom call. Yeah, we have our club meeting. We sit down, we chat, we talk about things that we're into, things that we're struggling with, things we want to improve, and special guest appearances from other like-minded content creators. Ugh, it's so much fun. If you want to become a member today, there is a link in the description below. I'll see you in there. Because they're constantly improving it and constantly working on it. And so they even released this new press, which is a good segue, I would say. But they released a new little press statement showing that, hey, we're next year we're putting a new formula for better colors, richer, sharper pictures, all that stuff in the due to the backlash of them releasing a Bluetooth speaker this year. So, which is also something I wanted to talk to you about. What your thoughts? I get people ask me all the time, what are my thoughts? And I haven't talked about it too much, just casually here and there. But I would love to know your thoughts on Polaroid dropping a Bluetooth speaker in the year 2022. Do we need it?
Yeah.
Are they too late?
What I'm holding right here is a modified Polaroid camera where it's a sonar camera, and I took out the sonar and put a speaker in there. And so it is a Bluetooth speaker. So this is what I imagine Polaroid would develop: a camera or something that looks like a camera that is actually a Bluetooth speaker, right? That would be a Polaroid Bluetooth.
Now,
instead, it's just 100% a Bluetooth speaker. It's not even a radio as far as I know. It won't even tune into FM radio.
So it's Polaroid radio that you connect to your phone via Bluetooth, but it only plays... No, I think you can do two options, but the only radio functionality that they have is their own stations, not FM.
Through the internet, stuff. Okay.
Yeah, through the internet. They have their own music stations. There's like 4 channels, I think, maybe more. I'm not sure. And I think it's just royalty-free music. I don't think they're curating like custom music, but the concept of the whole thing is like you turn it on and it's vintage listening style where you can't skip the song. It's whatever's playing. And then that's it. And I'm pretty sure you can I'm pretty sure you can still listen to like your own music though, like through Spotify or something, whatever's on your phone. I'm pretty sure. I haven't dug that deep though.
See, to me, knowing that much more about it, I would say, great. I can't wait to get one sent to me for free. That would be the best way to do it, right? Or maybe a really low price. Like, here's this $20 radio, and it's almost like a Spotify account. That would make sense because then you get to listen to their commercials. That's the payoff, right? So you listen to their commercials, you get a really low cost, cheap, nice sounding speaker. That would kind of be cool, but it doesn't even have that. It's just like you listen to Polaroid radio on the Polaroid radio, and you probably still get commercials on it. I'm betting there's commercials in there.
Oh, I'm sure there would be, and then eventually they'll launch a paid version. I mean, I wouldn't see why not. It'll fail. I don't think it's gonna work. It's gonna last. Now, if they actually made like what you just made with that camera, like a functioning camera that had a speaker built into it that you could be listening to music while you're shooting your photos. That's a gimmick, but at least they're trying. Like.
Yeah,
we don't need another Bluetooth speaker in the year 2022. They're like 10 years too late to this game. Like if this maybe even longer, like this should have been like 2007, maybe 2008 type of thing. And it would have been pretty cool.
And I know that I'm probably more old school where I still listen to the local FM radio station. I'll tune through there just to see. Sometimes I just like to hear what's on the radio. Nothing. You're not missing anything. And sometimes it is annoying because you get like just static and things like this. So I can understand most people have Wi-Fi. Why not just connect and they're going to Bluetooth it from their Spotify account or whatever music app that they have. And that kind of makes sense. But I always go old school in the mindset of what happens when you don't have access to the internet. You have a really expensive radio because that thing is expensive. But I was thinking though, Polaroid over the years has put their brand name on a lot of just third-party stuff that's junky. But this one doesn't seem like that's what this is. This is 100% made for Polaroid. Like it's a Polaroid branded thing, not just their logo on something.
Yeah, and funny enough, like they've already made a Bluetooth speakers over the years, but just slapped their name on some Chinese product and called it their own. That's what they used to do, and they still do that today. You bought that action camera from them that one time.
Yeah, what? Because there's that little section at Target. Those of you that are familiar with it, you know the little area. It's like this little 5-foot area with a couple items, and that camera, just that little action camera was there. And I'm like, that's the only thing I've never looked into. And I got it, and it was the worst. I took that thing back so fast. That's where hopefully they know not to get into that. But that's what, I don't know. I guess there's not many ways to mess up a radio. If it sounds okay, I just don't see the value in that kind of money for that sound.
I think it retails for $200. I think there's like 3 versions of it. And I know one of them is 200. I don't know if that's the flagship one or if it's like the middle one, but you can buy like a Bose speaker that you can hook to your TV and stuff, and use it for radio and Bluetooth and all that stuff for like $300. So,
And I know I'm older, so I have a different idea of what vintage looks like in my mind. Like, I'm thinking, when I think old school, I'm thinking the old resistor radios. They're like pocket size. They fit in your front pocket. They're square. Some of
yeah,
them might be cool. I don't know. I'm sure I got one somewhere on the shelf, but
sure you do.
that's where, for the newer, younger kids, vintage might be more of like early 2000s. But I don't know. That's the other thing as far as the design. It's a rounded radio with 2 basic colors, like a fluorescent bright color and a white. That seems to be what I've seen on the pictures online.
Yeah.
But the overall design of it, doesn't seem like it's going to be a classic look 5 years from now. And in fact, I can't imagine.
No.
I mean, it's probably got an internal built-in battery, so there's the other limitation. But I don't know. That's where I'm just old. Where I think that's like,
Probably has
seems
both.
like almost like their newer cameras, where it's like in 5 years, you have to get a battery replaced inside of it.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure it has both. You can DC power and probably portable power. That's my guess. I haven't looked into it that much, but man, they are putting so much into this. Like they did a whole press launch, like a keynote thing, invited people out and had put on a whole event for the launch of these speakers. Like I just don't get it. I don't understand. They need to be focusing on making their film more consistent and putting out a better camera. They need to fix the Now Plus and
Yeah, right.
start focusing on that stuff because that's what people actually want. Now, granted, we don't get to see their back end and their books and stuff and see what's actually making the money because potentially all those weird knockoff junky stuff they slap their name on is probably what's bringing in the buku bucks for them. And the speaker isn't for the people that shoot Polaroid or normal instant stuff. This is for everybody else. And who knows, maybe it's a huge success or it will be maybe a huge success. Just not for us.
Yeah, there's definitely, I'm sure, like, I know I'm just thinking America, North America. And so there's definitely the whole world. So there's probably other parts of the world that have maybe more of an intrigue with that style. Because I'm sure it does have a look to it that's like kind of, I would say maybe it is iconic. Maybe in 5 years from now, it'll be an iconic look. But it does have a unique look that you'd know that if you saw it somewhere on the shelf, you would recognize it pretty easily compared to there's not really many new stereos. Like you mentioned, the little pocket Bluetooth speakers, they're usually like cans is what they
Yeah.
all look like, either a short can or a tall can.
Yeah.
But I think there's that. I still think, I mean, that's where, like you said, the numbers is what really matters. But if they would have just taken some of that money and just put it towards the Polaroid Go and just make some throwback designs, like make a
Yeah.
600 flip up flash as a miniature Go, it would
Gosh.
perpetuate the sales of that little film that they're making. I just think I think people would buy it just to collect it. And so
Mm-hmm.
they would get their money back from almost everybody that owns a camera.
Oh,
But
yeah.
that's a lot of R&D, I'm sure.
I know. I've been saying this for the well, since the Go came out. They should make a miniature SX70 camera, not an SLR camera. It would still function like just like a, with a viewfinder type of thing. Not like you won't be able to look through the lens, but they could totally make that in like a folding setup of some kind. I know they could, and that way it would
Hmm.
fit in a pocket so much easier. I would carry that thing everywhere if they made something like that folded
It
down like
would be
that and
pretty
shot Go film.
amazing.
Like it would make me want to film or shoot with that film. 'Cause I don't really shoot with that film, but I would totally do
Yeah,
it
and
with
that's the
that.
problem. Yeah, and that kind of overflows into that is that thing. They're trying to be a diverse company because there is some limitation because that's where then thinking of the quality. I like the novelty of it, but most people like quality more than novelty. And the
Sure.
quality of the Go film is kind of a waste. I think it's just not, I don't know. I don't take a lot of selfies, so I think that's where it would probably shine the best.
Yeah.
but for taking pictures of things, it's so small.
Yeah.
I haven't really found a good use for it yet.
Yeah, it's really good for like party situations or selfies, things like that. But they always say the best camera is the one you have with you. So having that in your pocket and then being able to pull it out and shoot whatever it might be, I think it'd just be cool and make me want to shoot it more. And just like you said, the novelty of it. If they did like I didn't even think about that, but like the 600 cameras, little flip ups and stuff, that would be so cool in a little miniature mode. Oh my gosh, that would just be so fun. And that's the stuff
for
they
that
should be
format.
focusing on. Yeah. Yeah.
And that's where obviously we don't know all the business side of it, but that would be interesting to see. I'll be surprised if a year from now they're coming out with new versions of that radio. Because I didn't realize that was a thing that people wanted radios. I actually, more than ever, I'm like, isn't everybody just using AirPods and they're just all in their own little world with that the era of like a big radio sitting out on the beach? It's usually really annoying to everyone else, so they don't want that. But it's kind of surprising how easy it is just to make an old stereo Bluetooth. And if you're going for that like a cool iconic look, oh my goodness. Actually, I got one right here. Like this is a Bluetooth speaker. I'm holding up a miniature Boombox, and it's the size of my hand. This is from, I don't know what, New Toys, like New Wave Toys. Where am I going here? There. And I've wanted this without realizing I've wanted this my whole life. But that goes back to the miniature thing, where if Polaroid would double down and just say, okay, we're coming out with a collectible miniature SX70. Oh my goodness. They would sell out first day, pre-sales, guaranteed.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't put money on that, but
I guarantee, honestly, they would. They'd probably have to do pre-orders on it before they would put it out. Because, heck, actually, what would be a cool idea is if they did kind of what Hasbro does. I don't know if you know about this, but Hasbro has their own Kickstarter program where they put up a toy or whatever, and they're like, hey, we want to make this, but it's going to be expensive. And if we get enough interest in this, enough backers, we'll make it. And people, there's only been one time where something never was made. And these people were buying up, these pretty awesome, elaborate like toys. Like they did one for Star Wars and the Mandalorian and his ship. It's huge, gigantic. It's like almost pretty much scale with the 3-inch action figures. And it was like for $500, maybe less. It might be less. It might have been $350. But yeah, it's a lot of money, but they didn't have to put up the cash to make it first because they had the fans pay for it. And then they made it. And so what if Polaroid did something like that, but with utilizing the Go cameras, like SX70 camera? Or what if they brought back like the Barbie camera, but miniaturized for the Go film? Or like the Spice Girls camera, like the Taz camera, but smaller, like all these like harder or rarer cameras, but shrink them down into smaller deals and to utilize the Go film. Man, that's a good idea.
And I think it probably is we're just naive to the reality of all the business side of things. And there probably is, I don't know how that whole transition worked with like what proprietary stuff they actually purchased when they got the name Polaroid.
That's true.
And I wonder if some of that stuff might be locked into other business situations that they just don't even have the rights to even use something that looks like an old 600.
Yeah, but here's the thing. But here, I mean, you're onto something. But also, the only reason I might disagree with that is again going back to the toy world. There, like certain companies have certain licenses to like Star Wars, right? Hasbro has Star Wars. No one else can really make it. But there is some loopholes, like Bandai makes Star Wars action figures, but they're not action figures. They're classified as model kits. You build them kind of like a Gundam. You build an action figure, and you snap them, and there's no glue. You snap them together, and boom, you have this really kick-ass 6-inch action figure. Amazing detail. They're better than technically the ones that Hasbro makes. Or the other thing is scales. Like let's say there's a company out there called Todd McFarlane, and he can only make 7-inch action figures. Yeah, 7-inch action. 7-inch, 8-inch action figures, something like that. There's certain licenses that you can only do in certain scales, and certain companies has those rights to that particular scale. So I'm wondering if Polaroid could do something like that, but take the same camera, but it's shrunk down. Now it's a totally different camera, and it shoots different film and it's different size and all that stuff. So I wonder if that's kind of like a loophole that could potentially work. I don't know for sure or not, but that's maybe something.
Yeah,
But
and like I have a video where I take apart one of the Go cameras because I did like a repaint on it, and the insides. I'm sure somebody out there could reverse engineer and just make a medium quality 3D printed retro style. They probably could do that because the mechanism itself is pretty standalone. You just have to make it air water or not watertight, light tight, right? So it's not doesn't have any light leaks. Someone could create that if we really wanted to see that. That's why in my mind I always think like at least with the 600 style film, as far as the SX70 style flat camera that you just put in your pocket. I mean, the thing is, and that I'm sure they probably, if they did even run these ideas in the boardroom, they probably figured, you think of the Go camera, it's about 2.5 inches tall, maybe 3 inches tall. If you made that where it flattened down, you would cut out about half that height.
yeah,
And for the amount of like R&D, it just probably was not feasible to try to make it 1 inch tall instead of 2 inches, as far as that. So there's probably, but I just think, yeah, the cool factor, I think Funko Pop just came out with the little Polaroid standy thing. And it's like, okay, we got that. But a radio is the newest thing from Polaroid. Like,
whew,
at least go super nostalgic.
Leads into the next thing I want to talk about. Like, what do you think, or like of like longevity of like film in general, or even instant photography?
Yeah, I have a limited exposure to people. I don't know. I have my group of friends, and that's pretty much all the people I see. And I guess out of all of my family, I only have my one nephew that seems to be a little bit interested. But right away, the price of this film, when he went out to buy some new packs, he's like $20 for 8 photos. So that kind of hit him a little quick. And then it's where I encouraged him to just, look into Instax and stuff like that. But as far as the longevity, I don't know, but I just keep thinking the fact that it's here now, that's where I'm not necessarily going crazy, but I got cameras behind me and I've been collecting the instant cameras because I thought this thing was gone. I remember I had collected a bunch of Polaroid cameras, and when Polaroid closed their business, the cameras really weren't worth anything, and I got rid of most of them because I was like, I can't find any film anywhere. And so I don't know what the future of it holds, but I just know it's here now. So I just want to make the most of it because it's insane that it even exists in this day and age where everything is so, even the newer Polaroid cameras they're coming out with, they have a lot of function because they can interact with your phone, but they're so digital that they don't even have a lot of manual switches on it. You have to do everything digitally because I'm sure it costs them way less to have a little microchip switch a switch in the sensor than to have a physical moving thing on the camera. So even stuff like that, I know it's like a very generic version of it, but I'm sort of like, well, there's these older cameras, especially with the SX70 style, that have moving parts and metal parts, and I'm like, and you can still buy film to use those cameras. I think that's amazing. So I don't know. I think it'll be around for a little longer. I don't know. Who knows? I'm sure it's going to be the first thing, other than the dedicated artists, it's going to be the first thing they stop spending money on if things got really tight financially. That's where, because you take a photo, other than the few times I've hung out with you and we've shot, I've never seen anybody's instant photography photos in real life. They're always digital anyway. So it's almost like, outside of being able to have bragging rights, does it even mean anything to have a physical photo of something when the majority of your friends and family see it digitally anyways? I don't know. That's where it starts heading down into that virtual reality thing. But it's like, how many physical photos have you seen of other photographers? If they're not close to you or you're not visiting them, they're not going to like mail you their one of a kind photo. Or are they?
And then look at it and send it back. That's a great point, because we do live in a digital age, and here's some analog, film. But the only way to share it is to make it digital and share it with everybody around the world. The reach is larger than it ever has been, because even in the day, if you were sharing photo albums with friends and family, that was it. Those are the only ones that were seeing them. Now we can literally share it with the entire world. So I don't know, for me, I don't know if it's going to go anywhere anytime soon. If anything, maybe a company will go under. And I could potentially see Polaroid going under before Fuji Fuji's doing a lot more stuff, and so
Hmm.
I could, if I had to choose which one would go, it probably would be, I could foresee Polaroid going under well before then, just because Fuji's doing other like digital cameras and high end cinema, lenses and cameras, and plus their whole film line in general. And I know their
Yeah.
Instax Mini is like it's massive over, like, was in Asia. It is huge over there. So I don't know. I don't see instant film going anywhere anytime soon. Do you give away your film when you shoot it to people? Like, does that matter to you, or do you hang
Not
on to it?
really. Yeah, so far, just because I'm doing so many experiments, mostly it's just the same photo. And actually, I
Mm-hmm.
guess some of those, perfect example, I did give a photo using a fisheye lens. I gave two photos to my brother because I took some pictures of his dog, but they were kind of underexposed. And I didn't know that at the time. It takes about 10 minutes for this film to develop. So I gave it to him. It was still developing. And I was like, all right, I got to see it. I'll see you later. But when I went back and visited him recently, he just has them kind of like wedged into a little shelf on the corner in his basement. And I'm like looking at it thinking, I kind of want that back. If you're just going to stick it there, just because it's like, well, one, I could scan it in and then fix it, make it a little brighter. Cause he said it was a little dark. It was hard for him to see. And it was, because it was an experimental photo, which I'm looking at it
Mm-hmm.
from the artistic side where I'm like, yeah, that's part of the fun. You have to get under the right lighting and you have to kind of see the detail. And it's a one of a kind photo, but he didn't care about that. He just wants to see it clearly. So I'm like, maybe he
Mm-hmm.
wasn't the right audience to give that actual physical photo to. He would have been much happier with the digital scan, brightened colors, brightened lights. Yeah, it's not the original, but that's where, yeah, I've only given away a couple. That's where I go old school. Maybe 10 to 15 years ago is the only other time I used to give photos away. And I think I had just a different group of friends because I just like the novelty of it, of like, here's the only photo of us here. You can have it. Who
Right.
knows if they ever did anything with it. They probably burned everything. I don't know.
Well, yeah, but there's also those different times then. Like, it was just more common because it was everywhere. Everyone knew about it. Now you pull out a Polaroid camera and people are like, "Whoa, what's that?" And you take a picture and it's
Hmm.
like it's more substantial because like they're physically holding a photo. Majority of people don't. I remember I took a picture of my nephew, and I think he was like 4 at the time, maybe 5. And I took a picture and I gave it to him, and he was so confused as to what it was. I'm like, just watch it, look at it. It was an Instax Mini photo, and he watched it
Oh,
develop, and
cool.
he just was like, he could not comprehend this magic that was happening in front of his eyes. And so I kind of was trying to get him hooked on it a little bit.
Mentally, I'm preparing myself because Polaroid does have, I think it's a pretty good app as far as scanning photos where I can just hold the photo, get a pretty good lighting,
Mm-hmm.
and you can hold the phone at an angle and it brings it up perfectly square, frames it, crops it in. And that was what I did with the photos I gave to my brother. That was more recent, where I did a couple of pictures. I was happy with the digital scans that I took on the fly. And then I was like, here you go. So worst case scenario, I was preparing in my mind, like, well,
Mm-hmm.
I'm probably only going to share these digitally anyways. So I wasn't too concerned, other than just that more of that collector in me wants the physical version of that. But I did make a digital backup before I gave it out. So that would definitely be the modern way of giving it out. Where it used to be you take two photos and you maybe have your friend like, okay, pick one, and you're hoping they don't pick the good one, you know? All right, pick one. All right, you want that one? Okay, great. Now it's like I'll take a quick scan. And actually, there was one other time I tried to give a photo away, and they're like, oh no, let me just take a picture of it. Click. Oh, you can keep it. And I was like, oh, okay. I guess that counts. But I wanted them. That's where I was like thinking more nostalgic wise. Like, oh, I wanted you to have the one photo. They were happy with just taking a photo of it because they're like, what am I going to do with it? Stick it on my fridge? Just keep it. It's like, oh.
Interesting.
So it was good, but also kind of took the wind out of my sail. I'm like, oh, well, I guess not everybody thinks the same as me. That was the first of many experiences like that.
Well, yeah, I've been down that road with many people. Not many people think the way I think. But so on the topic of the photos themselves, do you have any particular way you display them? Do you put them in albums? Do you put them on the fridge? What do you do with your photos?
It's a good question. I don't have. I was actually just on the website a couple days ago looking at Polaroid. They have their little box, and I think you have some like their little photo albums with their imprinted, embossed logos and images. I just the price of them I haven't figured out if I want to spend.
I don't have
I
those.
finally finished this. I got my friend to print this the right size.
Ah,
But that's what's
okay.
kind of unfortunate, just because I'm doing so much experimental stuff. I have like the other one is just like it turns into like they're in
Yeah.
here, but I also have them in like plastic protective packs. So I'm holding this little tiny box full of tons of random stuff, and the photos are all inside Ziploc bags. So it's definitely very amateur. Mostly because though I know that this whole pack in this Ziploc bag here is from a specific shoot with a specific lens, and I need to reference it later.
I
So
do the
that's my
same thing.
problem. I haven't committed to albums.
Yeah, I still need to fix my 3D printer because I was making those. So what if you're audio listeners and you didn't see, but Dave has a little milk crate 3D printed for his Polaroid photos, and it's really sweet. And
Yeah.
I got the idea from him, and so I tracked down a file and I made it to size. Printed one and it failed, so I printed it again and it worked. But in that process of printing the one that did work, my extruder got clogged, and I've been unable to clog
Bummer.
it. And so I need to just get a new extruder. But yeah, I wanted to make a bunch more of those in different colors and have them on my shelves because I want to have photos out where people can like physically see them and touch them and look through them, and I think that's a cool way to display them on a shelf. But for me,
Yeah.
but for me currently, I do photo albums. I got coming up and soon I've got the annual live stream that I do where I build out my favorite and best Polaroid photos. I got my album that I put them in. I use the Polaroid branded album for that. And other than that, I just put them in a shoebox.
Well, but it looks like, I guess, yeah, the stuff you've shown online, you seem like you have like a clean setup where you have the same Polaroid albums, right? And even you say a shoebox, but don't you have the Polaroid box or is that only the small ones?
Yeah, no, I don't have the Polaroid boxes at all.
Okay.
I think they're cool. They just don't hold enough photos, so I just have generic like colored shoe boxes, and I put that particular year photos, the extras, in there, and then the next year I get another one. But they're like super cheap. They're like a couple of dollars. That looks like a craft store, but yeah, it's just like a shoe box.
But seeing your setup, I'm excited because that's always a highlight to wait for your year-end organization.
Yeah, it's pretty fun. Those live streams, I've done 2 of them so far each year, and this year will be interesting because I actually didn't shoot as many photos that I have in the past this year, at least for Polaroid wise. Okay. I want to say I probably shot maybe 50% less photos, and I think that might be more to the effect of like, well, I want to say I've gotten better as a photographer. So like, I'm not like wasting as many shots because over the years I was just trigger happy and I was just firing them off and learning as I went. And now it's like, oh, I was looking at the box today. I'm like, wow, like I only filled half the box instead of almost nearly a full box like I did last year. I don't think I quite filled it last year, but it was pretty close to filling a shoebox, stacked in rows. It was pretty close. But this year, yeah, it was about half. And then now 120 of those will go into a photo album. So that year's box is going to be kind of empty, which is interesting.
50% is a lot. Like shooting half as much film, that's a lot of savings as far as financially, as far as the price. But because of all the way that Polaroid is the instant cartridges, you can count those up and figure about how much you spent. Now, of course, in your case, because you're getting some discounted carts coming through, you might have a little bit more savings. But that would be interesting because after this many years of doing it now, you could almost figure out a budget and say, okay, this is my budget for the next year. If you wanted to make it like a little bit more strict as far as expenditure.
Funny you bring that up because I bought a lot of film recently from my guy. He I spent probably, I got the film, I don't remember what I ended up paying. It was like $250 for it was a good chunk of film. And all the boxes are damaged. But which is fine. The film itself is going to be fine. But the amount that I got, I was literally thinking, I'm like, you know what? This might be like in one bag, the amount of film I shot this year. So going into next year, I might have all my film, mostly, that I need, because I actually still have another. I mean, I've got my fridge full of film still. Like I've got so much film right now. Like it's kind of crazy. I guess maybe if I just find deals, I'll buy it. Like if I ever see it on sale, I pick up, I pick it up just because it doesn't ever go on sale. So you might as well pick it up because I know I'll shoot it eventually. Like I've shot less, but I think I've spent the same amount because of how much I actually have right now. So my goal is to not buy any more film unless I absolutely need to, or if I'm like traveling and I run out or something. Or I guess I do need to buy some mini film because I think I only have like one pack left of film. I don't really shoot it often, but I got the Evo recently and it's been kind of fun to shoot with. And then wide film, I only have like 1 or 2 boxes left of that. So that's probably the next film that I'll purchase. But after that, I'm going to try to make a goal to not buy any new film here locally. I've got plenty of it, which is super good. Nice. Yeah, it's super nice because over the years, it is very expensive to like run a channel like this. And I was trying to be a little more aware of that this year when doing videos. So like when I do like the Polaroid Now Plus video, like I shot probably 12 packs of film through that thing. It's a lot of money. And it's a lot of photos, which does fill up that shoebox, right? So I didn't do a video that in depth this year. So I didn't use that much film because there really wasn't any cameras that came out this year. The only new cameras that came out this year was the Evo. That's it. It's the only camera that I know of, right? Yeah, I think so. I'm thinking. I think that's the only new camera, the instant camera that went on the market this year. And so there was no need for me to do an in-depth crazy video like I had in the past because I'm starting to get to a point now in all my videos where I've already done all that. All the cameras that I own, I've already done all the in-depth videos. So now it's just like doing creative tutorials and things. So I'm not needing to use like crazy amounts of film for tests anymore, which is great because it doesn't cost as much to do videos. However, when cameras do come out, yeah, I'll still do those in-depth videos.
Unless, like, I think most people that are into this probably are shooting more normally, where that's the thing. If you are just thinking about getting into it and you've been listening this far, you obviously are interested. Mm-hmm. And you probably won't need, always surprised. Like, I feel like now that some of the experiments are done, I'll shoot 1 or 2 photos a month. I mean, that seems probably low, but it's like, just because it's like a moment, like, oh, I'm with my family. Oh, this would be kind of cool. Click, without a dedicated thing of thinking, oh, I'll shoot a whole pack here. I'm like, no, I just want a few moments memorized on film. And I think if people have that mindset, 1 pack of film would last you at least a month if you only shot a few photos every couple of weeks. So that's where, compared to like doing a full on YouTube channel where you're like going through 3 packs just to test a camera. Ooh.
Yeah, no,
most people
great
don't
point.
Need that much film.
Yeah, it's a great point because like I was talking with, I do know somebody, my friend Caleb and his girlfriend Alex, but mostly just Caleb. Shout out to you, Caleb, if you're watching. But he has no problem just burning a pack of film in like 30 seconds. He'll pop them, and take pictures and just move on to the next pack. He goes through a lot of film, but most people that I know, like they could buy a box of like, let's say Instax mini film, and that could last them 6 months. They won't even, they shoot like a couple here and there. And when I first started in instant photography, before I had a channel really dedicated to it, I was doing other stuff, but I picked up a mini camera and I bought 1 box, and it probably lasted me a month, maybe a month and a half. Because that was just, I think that's just the casual way to shoot it. I think that's what most people are doing. It's only this absolute super diehards or YouTube channels that are just like blowing through film like it's nothing.
Yeah, and I think that's what's good about it. Again, most of the time you've made videos of you using it, so other people can also benefit from this money you've spent previously, because then we're like, oh, well, we don't need to, other than if we want to go through the whole process and the hard way of learning some trick or photography thing, we can just go, okay, this is what we need to do. Perfect. We'll try that with our 1 pack of film instead of having to purchase a bunch and figure it all out ourselves.
Yeah. And what's been nice too is that I've shot so much film And so when I need to reference something, I already have it. So let's say I do a review of like recently I did a review of the SLR 680. I broke it down and shot it off. To do that video, I didn't have to go out and shoot photos. I've already shot hundreds of photos with that camera. So like I was like, just pull from that. And then if I reference it ever again, I just go through the library on my end. Oh, we lost you, Dave. After some technical difficulties, we're good.
Different camera, same audio. You audio listeners, or you're just living life right now?
Yeah, you live life. No issues on your end. I was just about to talk about how I'm able to pull from all the stuff that I've already shot, because in my computer, I have everything organized by the year I took it, as well as in subfolders via the film type, like Polaroid. And then in that folder, there's the cameras that I used. So for each photo, so I can always pull exactly from my library of examples. So I'm just being able to shoot less photos because of that, which is saving some money, because why repeat a lot of times unless it's absolutely necessary, like a comparison video, which I do have coming, because I'm going to be doing some one video. It won't be until next year, but I want to do a 1 step 2 versus 1 step 2 versus 1 step 2, because there's technically 3 types of 1 step 2 cameras. And so for that video, that one will probably take a lot of film to shoot with, because I will be doing direct comparisons for that.
I'm always curious how many new instant photographers are just getting into it that might be following along with these types of podcasts or audio video series and stuff like that. I feel like in a way we're kind of talking to a lot of people that already know maybe some of the stuff we've been sharing, but if nothing else, if there's some people on the fence, like, should they get back into it and not? It's like, well, it's here. The film's available. Let's do it, but it's fun to talk about these things. So
no, for sure.
Either way.
Because like we said earlier, who knows how long it'll be around for. So if you like it, just do it. Have some fun. Well, hey, I guess that's a great stopping point. Thank you so much for taking the time to sit down and chat. Why don't you let the fine people know where they can find you?
The best place to find me, youtube.com/NopTop. And then from there, all the social media links, the same username on all the other platforms. But YouTube is where I still hang out, and especially now they've organized shorts. I think you'll see some of the stuff from Instagram kind of carry back over to YouTube. But Instagram, you'll get the latest, greatest. So there's your places to go.
There's your plug. Well, hey, thank you so much, Dave. It's great chatting with you, and I'm sure we'll have you on again at some point. So thank you, and I'll see you later. What an exciting episode. Thank you again, Dave, for stopping on by, sitting down, and having a chat. I'm sure we'll see Dave here on the podcast again in the future. And be sure to check out what he's got going on. You can find helpful links in the description to both his YouTube channels, the NopTop channel and the Thrifty channel, Thrifty Mint. Really, really cool idea. Thank you guys so much for listening and watching. There is a video form of this on Spotify and YouTube. But until next time, I'll see you in the next podcast. Now get out there, make some art.